while children are being ripped from the arms of their mothers and placed in cages, I am reminded that we are the dogs of society. So you have to forgive me if I am a little concerned about being asked to follow this Jesus who calls this woman of color a dog.
This is a masterclass in how to manipulate the scripture to fit your current social agendas. Now, I'm not suggesting, of course, that racism is not a thing, although because it absolutely is. I actually have a long video where I teach on this. I'll link it below. We talk about major real issues of racism, but we also talk about the problems of critical race theory as it's a worldview that's incompatible with Christianity, I believe. Now, this is him trying to make them compatible. So to make them compatible, he's changing Christianity to fit his worldview. He says about this term dog is equivalent to a modern phrase, Latino dogs, right? Which phrase I've never even heard anybody use, but that's the phrase that he wants to say is basically in Jesus' mouth. He also calls her a colored woman, which is really interesting. We'll get there in a minute about the strangeness of this. But this is just a masterclass in how to twist the Bible to fit your current social agenda. Now, I want you to see his conversation with Brandon Robinson, and they're actually talking about this. Listen to what he says. Now, you know he's a scholar. You think he's a scholar, he knows his stuff. Listen to what he says, and then I will explain to you how it's completely like it's not factually true, and it's not hard to prove it.
Ass him up!
To have Jesus say, I'm sorry, but you're a dog, and I'm not going to give you this. Now, of course, not only a dog, but a female dog. So, I mean, even the word may have been a little stronger than the cleanup version that we're using.
So let's just be clear. The entire case that Brandon has, that Jesus was racist, hangs on the meaning of this word dog. It's when Jesus says it's not good to give the children's food to dogs. Now, first off, he doesn't say you are a dog. That's not a phrase that Jesus says. They both changed Jesus' words and the woman's words in order to fit their way of wanting to interpret.
You're not going to put that damn king
in check. He refers to dogs it's as plural, as a category of people, which is to say that they're not Jews, they're not the children. Brandon hinted at this in his 1-minute video, but then he immediately leapt away from it and jumped over to the idea of race instead of religion. It's a religious issue. But let me push back on this idea that the word dog there is meant to be a derogatory racial term, and the scholar Miguel de la Torre says that it was used in the feminine, and the feminine word, it means basically the B word, right? He's saying the B word about this woman, which really changes your approach to Jesus. And he says, don't try to save Jesus from Jesus, right? These are lies. This is not true about what actually happened in the text. This is somehow appropriate in his mind, but it's not actually what Scripture says. So let's look at the actual word itself. This is the word Jesus used. He used the word kunarion, right? That's the lexical form of the word. He actually said kunarios because he did the plural dogs.
Get that fucking whore out of here.
Is dog, little dog. I've given you literally a list here on the side of the screen of a bunch of different lexicons and the way they translate the word. So little dogs, dog, puppy, house dog, little dog. You notice the word little is used a lot. Lap dog.
I can either ass up your whore,
and this word represents.
You can save your whore, and I can ass up your knight.
Right, and in her culture, the Syrophoenician groups, they actually did have dogs as pets on occasions. In fact, the more affluent family,
ass them up.
There's a good chance she was actually a more affluent type of a person. There's a decent chance that was the case. But notice this. If you look at the top of the screen right here, let me see if I can find the spot. Right here, there's a line that says noun, dative, plural, neuter. That's because the word Jesus used in the very verses in Mark and in Matthew, where he says it's not good to throw the dogs, right? The children's bread.
Up.
It's neuter. It's not feminine.
Ass that son of a bitch, motherfucker.
This is a simple, obvious, factual error. Miguel de la Torre wants to make this an ugly, ugly word. So he takes modern English conventions. When you use a feminized word of dog to talk down to somebody, it is very much meant to be derogatory.
I got so many unactive pieces.
Jesus doesn't use that word. He uses a word for house pets, for house dogs. There is another word that does have that derogatory meaning, and again, it's not feminine, right? Now, in the Greek, I don't think the feminine would matter that much because all the word feminine and masculine, it doesn't have as much of a heavy hit as it does in English. At any rate, here's the actual word that would give a derogatory term, dog, referring to somebody. It's the word kolon, or kusin in this particular verse, when Jesus says, give to dogs what is holy. Now, what I want you to notice about this, if you care about the Bible and you care about truth, I want you to know, Jesus says this about people who are spiritual unbelievers who openly reject right? The message of the gospel. And he describes those who are combatant, who are persecuting, as dogs. This is a very negative term, dog. But it's a spiritual thing, because it's a reference to anybody of any race or any ethnicity, but they are hostile to the gospel upon hearing it. They decide to respond with mockery and all that sort of thing. So you move along, you go to the next person to share. You don't just stay sharing with them forever. So there, you can see on your screen, there's even some strong words being used there. If Jesus wanted the most insulting word, this is the word he would have used. Yet in the New Testament, when the word dog is used, it always uses this really derogatory term. It's not racial, though. It's just derogatory. It is negative. It's not racial. That's modern reading into the ancient text. But when Jesus talks to this woman, it's the only place in the entire New Testament where 4 times, twice in Matthew, twice in Mark, he uses a soft word for dog. He uses kanarion or kanarios. This is the little dogs, the lap dogs, the house dogs. In other words, there's a sense in which there isn't a whole rejection of this woman. And it's not about her being a woman in the first place. It's not being used in that sense. This means the guy is being dishonest. Miguel de la Torre, who is the source for Brandon Robertson, who's getting a lot of attention by producing blasphemous content, to be completely honest. They're also producing fallacious content. It's not only blasphemous against the person of Christ. It's fallacious. It's false. It's based on deceit and misrepresentation of an ancient text that modern eyes can easily misread.
You're gonna lose one of those damn pieces.
Jesus from Jesus, but certainly Jesus from Brandon Robertson and Miguel de la Torre. That's definitely a goal of mine. Yes, when God wants to be more harsh, and he uses the term dog, right, with those authors. Revelation 20:15 says outsider of the dogs, that's kuon. Philippians 3:2 says look for the dogs.
Bitch.
And those are Jews he's talking about. Not all Jews, but in particular a certain subclass of those who are hostile to the gospel. That's the word kuon. Yeah, this is just deceit. So the question then comes up, what is the purpose of calling her dog? Like, what is Jesus getting at? It's obviously not a compliment, okay? We all agree on this. I'm just saying, don't couch it in 2021 critical race theory, like racial tension language, or gender issues language, because that's not the case at all. The significance of the term dog here, biblically, it's about her being part of a people group who has abandoned the God of creation and given themselves as a community over to